Picture constructing your entire career on the belief that you are invincible. That every song you release will top the charts. That every album you put out is guaranteed to achieve platinum status. Now envision all of that falling apart. Not due to a rival rapper, not because of a scandal, but because for the first time, your music simply didn't resonate. And even worse, you openly acknowledge it. This is the narrative of Drake. Not the invincible chart leader, not the social media genius, or the global sensation. This is Drake in his most exposed state. And it's not because Kendrick Lamar outperformed him on a track. No, that's not even the narrative Drake wants you to accept. He's directing blame elsewhere. Not at Kendrick, not even at himself, but at Universal Music Group. Hello everyone, welcome to Celebrity Cookies. Please don't forget to subscribe and comment your thoughts about the video. I hope to see you in our next cookies. Drake claims that UMG didn't just miss the mark, they sent it tumbling off a cliff. He's not merely suggesting they failed to promote his latest album adequately. He's insinuating they were actively involved in undermining his reputation. A gradual, internal sabotage from the very empire he helped establish. Let that sink in. This isn't the Drake we're familiar with. The Drake we know would have turned this album launch into a viral moment, released eye-catching visuals, hosted exclusive listening events, and flooded our social media feeds with coordinated content. Instead, this time, silence. No music videos. No promotional campaign. Just an unexpected release, followed by a sharp decline on the charts, and then a confession, his new album? It didn't succeed, and he's aware of it. But don't mistake his self-awareness for resignation. Drake didn't just accept the failure and move on. He's crafting an entirely new narrative, one that shifts the blame away from himself and places it firmly on the label that propelled him to stardom. "I know how it works," he said enigmatically in a recent interview. "I don't even want to engage with it anymore. I just want to see you in the audience, looking at me with a blank expression. What does that even signify? Perhaps nothing. Or perhaps everything. Maybe it's a man reconciling with the reality that he's no longer the focal point of the music industry. Perhaps it's a man gazing into a crowd that no longer mirrors his greatness. A man questioning when the atmosphere changed. Now let's discuss the figures. Drake's album For All the Dogs, Scary Hours Edition, affectionately referred to as $$ for You by fans, launched at #1 as expected. It's Drake, after all, that's his usual pattern. However, unlike his previous albums that would linger on the charts for weeks or even months, this one fell off more quickly than a failed cryptocurrency. We're looking at an album that barely sold 1,000 copies in weekly sales after just a few weeks since its release. This isn't just a decline, it's a significant drop. To put it in perspective, Kendrick Lamar's GNX, which came out over 15 weeks ago, has continued to gain traction. It didn't just stabilize, it kept climbing. The fact that a new Drake album is being outsold by a Kendrick release that's been out for months is almost unheard of. But it happened, and that's a harsh reality. This situation wasn't merely about numbers, it carried deeper significance. It marked a change. For the first time in a long while, Drake wasn't just facing setbacks, he was becoming irrelevant. During the same week that $$ for You struggled, Kendrick's GNX was gaining momentum. This was more than just a competition on the charts, it was a statement. Kendrick, often criticized for being too lyrical, too intellectual, and too intricate, was coming out on top. And it wasn't by chance, it was intentional. Drake took notice. He definitely noticed. That's when he initiated a campaign on social media to deflect attention. He began sharing videos that mocked Kendrick's lyrics. One video featured a dancer flipping through a dictionary, implying that Kendrick's music is too profound for the average listener to grasp. It came off as petty and ultimately backfired, making Drake appear more insecure. Then came the jabs about Kendrick's ad-libs, his flow, and his serious demeanor. But Kendrick didn't engage. He didn't respond. He didn't tweet or post ambiguous stories on Instagram. He simply let his music do the talking, and it spoke volumes. Kendrick's silence only amplified the scrutiny surrounding Drake. Fans began to question not just the quality of Drake's album, but the trajectory of his career. Was this the end? Was Drake finally on the decline? Just when the inquiries became overwhelming, Drake resorted to a classic PR tactic, finding a scapegoat. Sources close to him, along with hints he dropped, suggested that the album wasn't just poorly received, it was sabotaged. The accusation: UMG didn't adequately support the project. They failed to promote it, push the singles, or manage the release effectively. But let's analyze that. Was it truly a lack of support, or was it a strategic move to manage expectations? Drake was aware that this wasn't his strongest work. That much is evident. The absence of visuals, the surprise release, the lack of promotion, it wasn't due to negligence. It was a calculated approach, a low-key rollout for a quiet exit. He even categorized it as R&B, not hip-hop. Consider that for a moment. This was essentially a rap album disguised as R&B. Why? To dodge criticism. If it fails, he can blame the genre mix-up. If it succeeds, he can claim it shows versatility. It was a win-win situation until it wasn't. Even the choice of collaborator was calculated. Instead of partnering with well-known artists, Drake opted for a lesser-known one. This served as a buffer, someone who could take some of the backlash if things went wrong. The more you think about it, the clearer it becomes. This wasn't just a release, it was a strategy for escape. When that strategy fell apart, blame started flying. At the record label, at the fans, at Kendrick, at the changing industry, at everyone except for himself. This leads us to the uncomfortable question: is this the end for Drake? Has the final chapter already begun? Is he gradually stepping back from music, one disappointing album at a time? It's not hard to envision. Consider this: no tours, no interviews, no motivation to prove himself again. Just silence. And silence carries a lot of weight, especially as the competition grows louder. Kendrick isn't just topping the charts, he's redefining success in hip-hop. He prioritizes substance over showmanship and artistry over algorithms. Kendrick's albums don't just trend for a week, they resonate for years. They mature well, spark discussions, and hold significance. Drake's latest album, it didn't ignite discussions, it generated memes. It didn't trend for its music, it trended due to its lack of impact. The absence of influence became the main story. That's never been part of Drake's image. So what's next? Will Drake double down and return stronger? Or will he continue to fade quietly, blaming external factors instead of addressing his own message? The real disappointment isn't that Drake released a subpar album. Every artist can stumble. The real disappointment is that, rather than owning it, he's attempting to rewrite its narrative. By blaming UMG, undermining Kendrick, and ridiculing the fans who once supported him. It's tough to witness, because at his peak, Drake is one of the most talented and charismatic artists of his generation. But at his lowest, he's the one casting blame while the world moves forward. Music is evolving. The fans are evolving. The metrics are no longer sufficient. You can't rely solely on good vibes anymore. You need to express something meaningful, embody something significant, stand for something. And that's where Kendrick is excelling. He's not just spitting lyrics, he's creating entire worlds. He's narrating stories. He's challenging the status quo. He's present when it counts. While Drake is fading into the background, Kendrick is stepping into the spotlight. So perhaps this isn't really about Drake versus Kendrick. Maybe it's about Drake versus himself. And if he doesn't come to terms with that soon, his next album won't just fail, it will be forgotten that that's the real risk here. Not losing to Kendrick, but losing to time. Here's the painful part. When Drake finally acknowledged that the album wasn't good, when he openly admitted that it fell short of expectations, that the energy was lacking, and that the overall feel was off, no one was shocked. We were already aware. And when your fans recognize that your album has failed before you do, that's when you understand that the change you're hoping for has already taken place. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this situation, so please share your opinions in the comments. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to stay updated on this story.